The wind howled across the ice plains of Kepler 442b like a hungry beast. Jake Morrison pulled his thermal suit tighter around his body as he stepped outside Mining Station Alpha 7. The cold hit him like a wall, even through his protective gear. His breath formed white clouds that froze and fell to the ground like tiny snowflakes. Jake had been alone on this frozen planet for 3 months now. The other workers had gone back to Earth before the worst part of winter arrived. But someone had to stay and keep the station running. Someone had to make sure the life support systems worked. That someone was Jake Dot. He was a good engineer. He knew machines better than he knew people these days. Machines were simple. They did what you told them to do. They did not leave you. They did not die in transport accidents on the way to see you. Jake shook his head. He did not want to think about that today. He had work to do. The external heating units needed checking. If they failed, the whole station would freeze solid in less than 6 hours. On this planet, cold was not just uncomfortable. Cold was death. Walked around the station, checking each unit with his scanner. The readings looked good. All systems were working fine. The fuel levels were high enough to last another 2 weeks. By then, the supply ship would arrive with more fuel and food. As he finished checking the last unit, Jake heard something strange. It was not the wind. It was not the usual creaking sounds the station made in the cold. It was something else. He stopped and listened. The sound came again. It was like a whine, but deeper. Sadder. Jake followed the sound. It led him to the front of the station, near the main door. What he saw there made him stop breathing for a moment. A huge wolf-like creature sat in the snow. But this was not like any wolf Jake had ever seen. It was twice as big as the wolves back on Earth. Its fur looked strange, like it had tiny crystals growing in it that caught the light from the station. The fur was white and silver, and blue all at the same time. The creature was looking right at Jake. Its eyes were a bright blue color, almost glowing. But Jake could see something in those eyes that made his heart ache. The creature looked desperate, afraid, sad. Then Jake saw what the creature was carrying in its mouth. Very gently, the wolf held something small and still. Jake looked closer and saw it was a pup, a baby wolf, but the pup was not moving. Its small body was stiff and white with frost. The mother wolf made that whining sound again. She looked at Jake, then at the pup, then back at Jake. She was trying to tell him something. Jake stood very still. He had learned about the local wildlife before coming to this planet. These creatures were called Glacian lupus by the scientists. They were smart, but they usually stayed away from humans. They had never been known to approach the mining stations. But here was one, sitting right at his door. And she was asking for help. The mother wolf gently placed the frozen pup on the ground in front of Jake. Then she reached behind her and picked up another small, still form, another pup. This one was also frozen solid. Jake felt his throat tighten. The mother had lost her babies to the cold, but instead of giving up, she had brought them here. To him. Somehow, she knew he might be able to help. The wolf stepped back a few feet and sat down again. She watched Jake with those bright blue eyes. Waiting. Jake knew he should not do this. The rules were very clear. No contact with local wildlife. No interference with natural processes. If the company found out, he could lose his job. He could even go to prison. But as he looked at the frozen pups, Jake remembered other small, still forms. He remembered a transport crash 3 years ago. He remembered a wife and 2 children who never made it to their new home. He remembered holding their cold hands and wishing he could bring them back. He could not save his own family. But maybe he could save these 2 small lives. Jake knelt down in the snow. The cold seeped through his suit, but he did not care. Very carefully, he picked up the first pup It was so small and light. Its fur was the same crystal-like texture as its mother's, but duller now, lifeless. The second pup was even smaller. Jake could hold it in one hand. Both pups were frozen hard, but Jake thought he could feel the slightest warmth deep in their bodies. Maybe there was still a chance. Jake stood up and looked at the mother wolf. She had not moved. She was still, watching him with those hopeful, desperate eyes. "I do not know if I can help them," Jake said out loud. His voice sounded strange in the cold air, "but I will try." The mother wolf tilted her head slightly, as if she understood. Maybe she did. Jake turned toward the station door, carrying both pups carefully in his arms. Behind him, he heard the mother wolf stand up and follow. When he reached the door, Jake turned around. The wolf had stopped a few feet away. She was not trying to come inside. She was just watching, waiting. Jake nodded to her. "I will do everything I can," he promised. He went inside the station and sealed the door behind him. Through the window, he could see the mother wolf settling down in the snow outside. She curled up facing the station, her bright blue eyes never leaving the door. Jake looked down at the two frozen pups in his arms. They were so still, so cold. But somewhere deep inside their small bodies, life might still be flickering. Like a tiny flame that just needed the right conditions to grow strong again. Jake had always been good at keeping things alive. Machines, systems, power grids. Now he would find out if he could keep something much more important alive. He carried the pups toward the medical bay, his mind already working on what he would need to do. Outside, the mother wolf began her vigil in the snow, trusting a human. She had never met with the most precious things in her world. Jake carried the frozen pups into the medical bay. The room was small and white, with one bed and several machines. It was meant for human emergencies only. Jake had never thought he would use it to try to save alien wolf pups. He placed both pups on the medical bed. Under the bright lights, he could see them better. Their fur was beautiful, like it was made of tiny ice crystals. But their bodies were hard as rocks. Their little tongues hung out, blue and frozen. Their eyes were closed. Jake put his hand on the first pup's chest. He could not feel a heartbeat. But the body was not completely frozen solid. There was still some softness deep inside. Maybe there was still hope. He had to work fast. Every minute that passed made their chances smaller. Jake looked around the medical bay. He needed to warm them up, but slowly. Too much heat too fast would kill them. He needed to control the temperature exactly. The medical bay had a heating system, but it was meant for the whole room. Jake needed something smaller, something he could control better. Then he had an idea. Jake ran to the equipment room and grabbed several thermal blankets. These were special blankets that could be set to any temperature. He also took a small heater and some flexible tubing. From the life support room back in the medical bay, Jake started building. He put the thermal blankets around the pups like a small tent. Then he connected the tubing to the heater and ran it under the blankets. This way, he could blow warm air directly on the pups and control exactly how warm it got. But he needed to know if it was working. He needed to check their body temperature and heartbeat. Jake took the human medical scanner and tried it on the first pup. The machine beeped and showed numbers on the screen. Jake smiled. The scanner worked on the alien pups. Their bodies were similar enough to human bodies that the machine could read them. The first pup's body temperature was very low, much lower than it should be. But the scanner also showed something else. There was a heartbeat. Very slow, very weak, but it was there. Jake checked the second pup. This one was in worse shape. The body temperature was even lower, and the heartbeat was so slow that the machine could barely find it. Jake set the heater to the lowest setting and turned it on. Warm air began to flow through the tubing, and into the blanket tent. He watched the temperature readings on the scanner. He had to be very careful. Too much heat would hurt them. As the pups began to warm up slowly, Jake prepared other things they might need. He found 4 tubes and fluid bags. If the pups woke up, they would need water and nutrients. But what nutrients? Jake did not know what. Wolf pups ate. He would have to guess and hope. While he worked, Jake thought about his own children. His son Tommy had been 5 years old. His daughter Katie had been 3. They had been so excited about moving to the new colony world. They had talked about the adventure for weeks, but the transport ship had problems. An engine failure. The ship crashed on an asteroid. Jake was supposed to be on that ship too, but he had to stay behind for one more day to finish a project. One day that saved his life and took away everything that mattered to him. That Jake shook his head. He could not think about that, no. These pups needed him to focus. He checked the scanner again. The first pup's temperature was rising slowly. The heartbeat was getting a little stronger. The second pup was responding too, but not as much. Pulled a chair up to the medical bed and sat down. This was going to take a long time. He needed to watch them every minute. Outside, he could hear the wind howling. But through the window, he could also see the mother wolf. She had not moved. She was still lying in the snow, watching the medical bay window. Waiting. Jake felt a strange feeling in his chest. It was like a warm touch in his mind. For just a moment, he saw something that was not there. He saw images of wolves running through snow. He saw the mother wolf playing with her pups in a warm den. He saw the sudden storm that had frozen everything. Jake blinked and the images were gone. That was strange. He must be more tired than he thought. Hours passed. Jake watched the scanner readings and adjusted the heater temperature. Slowly, very slowly, the pups began to warm up. Their bodies became softer. Their fur became brighter. Then something amazing happened. The first pup's ear twitched. Jake leaned closer. He held his breath. The ear twitched again. Then one of the pup's paws moved slightly. "Come on, little one," Jake whispered. "You can do it." The pup's eyes opened just a crack. They were the same bright blue as its mother's eyes. The pup looked at Jake for a moment, then closed its eyes again. But it was breathing now. Jake could see its chest moving up and down. Jake felt tears on his face. He had not cried in 3 years. Not since the funeral. But seeing this small life come back from the edge of death made something break open in his chest. The second pup was still very still. Jake checked the scanner. The heartbeat was there, but very weak. This one needed more time. Jake worked through the night. He gave the first pup small amounts of water through and 4 tube. The pup was too weak to drink, but its body needed fluids. Jake had to guess how much to give. Too little, and the pup would die. Too much, and the pup would die. By morning, the first pup was breathing regularly. It could even lift its head a little. But it was still very weak. The second pup had improved too, but not as much. Its eyes had not opened yet, but its body was warmer, and its heartbeat was stronger. Jake was exhausted. He had not slept in 24 hours. But he could not stop now. The pups needed constant care. He looked out the window. The mother wolf was still there. She had not left her spot in the snow. She was covered with fresh snow from the night, but her bright blue eyes were still watching the window. Jake walked to the window and put his hand on the glass. The mother wolf saw him and lifted her head. For a moment, Jake felt that strange warm feeling in his mind again. He saw images of gratitude and hope. He saw the mother wolf's love for her pups. Jake nodded to her. He went back to the medical bed and continued his work. He had saved 1 pup and was still fighting for the second. But he knew this was just the beginning. The real work was still ahead. Jake woke up with his head on the medical table. He had fallen asleep watching the pups. Sunlight was coming through the window, which meant he had slept for several hours. He quickly checked the scanner. The first pup was doing better. Its body temperature was almost normal now. Its heartbeat was strong and steady. The pup was even moving around a little under the warm blankets. But the second pup was still in trouble. Its heartbeat was weak and its breathing was shallow. Jake frowned. This little one needed more help. Jake gently lifted the first pup and moved it to a smaller warming bed he had built during the night. The pup opened its bright blue eyes and looked at him. It made a small sound, like a tiny howl. "You are going to be okay," Jake told the pup. "You are strong." The pup seemed to understand. It settled down in the new bed and closed its eyes, but Jake could tell it was just resting, not unconscious. Jake turned his attention to the second pup. This one was smaller than the first. Maybe it was younger. Maybe it had been in the cold longer. Whatever the reason, it needed special care. Jake increased the temperature slightly in the warming tent. He gave the pup more fluids through the 4. He even tried gently massaging the pup's chest to help its heart beat stronger. As he worked, Jake felt that strange warm feeling in his mind again. But this time it was stronger. Images flashed in his head. He saw the wolf pack running across the ice. He saw them hunting together. He saw the sudden storm that scattered them. But most clearly, he saw the mother wolf searching for her lost pups. She had found them frozen in a snowdrift. She had tried to warm them with her own body, but it was not enough. Then she had seen the lights of the human station in the distance. Jake understood now. The mother wolf had known exactly what she was doing when she brought her pups to him. She had seen the station's lights and heat. She had figured out that the humans might be able to help. These wolves were much smarter than anyone had thought. Jake looked out the window. The mother wolf was still there, but she was sitting up now. She was watching him work on her second pup. When Jake looked at her, he felt another flash of images. This time he saw gratitude and hope, but also worry for the smaller pup. "I know," Jake said out loud. "I am worried too." Just then, something wonderful happened. The second pup's eyes opened. They were the same beautiful blue as its mother's. And siblings' eyes. The pup looked around weakly, then focused on Jake's face. Jake felt his heart jump. "Hello there, little one," he whispered. The pup tried to lift its head, but was too weak. Jake gently stroked its fur. The crystal-like texture was soft and warm now, not hard and cold like before. Over the next few hours, both pups grew stronger. The first pup was able to sit up and even tried to stand on wobbly legs. The second pup could lift its head and was drinking small amounts of water. But Jake noticed something else. The pups were making soft sounds to each other. Not just regular wolf sounds, but something more complex. It was almost like they were talking. And when they made these sounds, Jake felt touches in his mind. Images and feelings that were not his own. He was somehow connected to the wolves' way of communicating. Jake decided to try something. He focused his thoughts on the image of the mother wolf outside. He tried to send the thought to the pups. Both pups immediately became excited. They looked toward the window and made happy sounds. They understood what Jake was thinking about. Jake felt amazed. These creatures had some kind of mind-to-mind communication, and somehow he was part of it now. Jake went to the window and looked out at the mother wolf. He focused his thoughts on images of her pups getting better. He tried to show her that they were safe and healing. The mother wolf stood up immediately. Her tail began to wag slightly. She had received his message, but then Jake felt new images from the mother wolf. She was showing him something important. The pups needed a special kind of food. something that only grew in certain places on this planet. Without this food, the pups would not grow strong enough to survive. Jake saw images of caves deep in the ice. He saw strange plants that glowed with their own light. He saw the mother wolf eating these plants and then feeding her pups with milk that contained what they needed. Jake understood. The pups needed nutrients that only came from these special plants. And those plants grew in dangerous ice caves far from the station. Jake checked his equipment. He had enough supplies to keep the pups alive for maybe a week. But if they were going to truly recover and grow strong, he would need to find these plants. Jake looked at the medical scanner. Both pups were stable now, but they were still weak. They needed constant care. He could not leave them alone. Then, Jake remembered something. Dr. Lisa Patterson was the station scientist who studied alien life. She was currently doing research on the other side of the planet, but she could help if he called her. Jake went to the communication room and sent a message to Dr. Patterson. He told her about the wolf pups and what had happened. He asked her to come back to the station as soon as possible. While he waited for her reply, Jake went back to check on the pups. They were both sleeping peacefully now. Their breathing was regular, and their body temperature was normal. Jake felt proud of what he had accomplished. He had brought 2 frozen creatures back from the edge of death, but he also felt worried. Keeping them alive was just the first step. Now he had to figure out how to help them truly recover. The mother wolf was still outside. She had moved closer to the window. When Jake appeared, she stood up and wagged her tail slightly. Through their strange mental connection, Jake felt her gratitude and trust. She was trusting him with the most important things in her world. Jake was determined not to let her down. A few hours later, Jake's communication system beeped. Dr. Patterson had replied to his message. She was coming back immediately. She would arrive in 2 days. Jake looked at the sleeping pups. 2 days. He had to keep them stable for 2 more days. Then Dr. Patterson could help him figure out what to do next. Outside, the wind was picking up again. Another storm was coming. But inside the medical bay, 2 small lives were growing stronger every hour. And Jake was learning that the universe was full of connections he had never imagined. 2 days later, Dr. Lisa Patterson arrived at the station in her snow vehicle. She was a small woman with kind eyes and gray hair. She had been studying the plants and animals of this planet for 3 years. Jake met her at the door. "Thank you for coming back," he said. "I need your help." Lisa looked tired from her long journey, but her eyes were bright with curiosity. "Show me these pups," she said. "I have never heard of wolves approaching humans before." Jake led her to the medical bay. The 2 pups were much stronger now. The first pup could walk around the small room. The second pup could sit up and eat small pieces of food that Jake had prepared. When the pups saw Lisa, they made soft sounds and looked at Jake. Through his mental connection with them, Jake felt their question. They wanted to know if this knew human was safe. Jake sent them feelings of trust and safety. The pups relaxed and even approached Lisa carefully. "This is amazing," Lisa whispered. She knelt down and let the pups smell her hand. "They are so intelligent. Look at how they watch. U.S. They are studying us just as much as we are studying them." Jake told Lisa about the mental connection he had discovered. He explained about the special plants the pups needed to grow strong. Lisa nodded. "I know about those plants," she said. "They are called ice moss. They grow deep in the lava caves where the ground is warm but the air is still cold. The caves are dangerous. There are cracks in the ice and other predators." "I have to try," Jake said. "Without those plants, the pups will never be strong enough to survive in the wild." Lisa looked out the window at the mother wolf. "She could guide you to the caves. But Jake, this is very dangerous. The caves are 20 miles from here. The weather is getting worse. And there are ice bears in those caves. They are much more dangerous than the wolves. Jake had made up his mind. I cannot let these pups die. Not when I can do something to help them. Lisa sighed. Then I will help you prepare. But we need to be very careful. They spent the rest of the day getting ready. Jake put together a pack with food, water, heating pads, and emergency equipment. Lisa gave him a scanner that could detect the ice moss from a distance. The next morning, Jake put on his warmest clothes and heaviest boots. He checked his equipment one more time. The pups seemed to understand what was happening. They came to him and rubbed against his legs, making soft sounds through their mental connection. Jake felt their gratitude and worry. They wanted him to be safe. I will be back, Jake promised them. Take care of Dr. Patterson while I am gone. Jake went outside. The mother wolf was waiting for him. She stood up when she saw him and wagged her tail. Through their connection, Jake felt her readiness to go. Show me the way, Jake said. The mother wolf started walking toward the ice hills in the distance. Jake followed her, his boots crunching in the snow. The journey was harder than Jake had expected. The snow was deep and the wind was strong. But the mother wolf seemed to know exactly where to go. She led him around dangerous areas where the ice was thin. She found paths through the rocks that protected them from the worst of the wind. After 4 hours of walking, they reached the caves. Jake could see warm air rising from cracks in the ground. The caves were formed by old lava flows that still gave off heat deep underground. The mother wolf stopped at the entrance to the largest cave. She looked at Jake and sent him images through their mental connection. Jake saw the ice moss growing on the walls deep inside the cave, but he also saw the dangers. Ice bears sleeping inside passages, cracks in the floor that dropped into darkness. I understand, Jake told her. Stay close to me. They entered the cave together. Jake turned on his flashlight. The walls were covered with ice, but Jake could feel warm air coming from deeper inside. His scanner began to beep softly. It was detecting the ice moss somewhere ahead. The mother wolf led him carefully through the cave. She knew exactly where to step and which passages were safe. Jake followed her every move. As they went deeper, Jake began to see a faint green glow on the walls, the ice moss. It looked like tiny stars growing in the ice. It was beautiful. Jake took out his collection bag and began carefully scraping the moss from the walls. It came off easily and felt warm in his hands. The scanner showed that this moss was full of the nutrients the pups needed. Suddenly, the mother wolf froze. She made a low growling sound. Jake felt danger through their mental connection. From a side passage came a deep rumbling sound. Something big was moving in the darkness. Jake turned his flashlight toward the sound. 2 red eyes reflected the light back at him. An ice bear. It was huge, much bigger than the mother wolf. Its white fur was thick, and its claws were as long as Jake's fingers. The ice bear roared and charged toward them. The mother wolf jumped in front of Jake. She snarled at the ice bear, showing her teeth. Jake realized she was protecting him, just like he had protected her pups. The 2 animals circled each other in the narrow cave passage. The ice bear was bigger and stronger, but the mother wolf was faster and smarter. Jake backed against the cave wall, holding his bag of ice moss. He could not help in this fight, but he could make sure the moss was safe. The ice bear swung its huge paw at the mother wolf. She dodged and bit the bear's leg. The bear roared in pain and anger. The fight continued for several minutes. Both animals were strong and determined. But slowly, Jake realized the mother wolf was winning. She was using the narrow cave passages to her advantage. The big ice bear could not move as easily in the tight space. Finally, the ice bear realized it was beaten. It backed away into the darkness, growling threats, but not attacking anymore. The mother wolf came back to Jake. She was breathing hard and had some scratches, but she was not seriously hurt. Through their connection, Jake felt her concern for him. "Thank you," Jake said. "You saved my life." They quickly gathered more ice moss and left the cave. The journey back to the station was easier because they knew the way now. When they reached the station, Lisa and the pups were waiting for them. The pups ran to their mother, making happy sounds. The mother wolf licked them gently, checking to make sure they were okay. Jake gave the ice moss to Lisa. She immediately began preparing it for the pups to eat. "This should be enough to make them strong and healthy," Lisa said. "You did it, Jake. You saved them." Jake looked at the wolf family together again and felt a deep satisfaction. He had kept his promise. The ice moss worked like magic. Within 3 days of eating it, both pups were running around the medical bay like healthy young wolves. Their fur was bright and shiny. Their eyes were alert and curious. They played with each other and followed Jake everywhere he went. The first pup, which Jake had started calling Frost, was bold and adventurous. He liked to explore every corner of the station. The second pup, which Jake called Snow, was smaller and more careful, but very smart. She learned quickly and seemed to understand human words better than her brother. Dr. Lisa was amazed by how fast they recovered. "I have never seen anything like this," she told Jake. "These pups are not just healthy now. They are stronger and more intelligent than normal wolf pups should be. Something about your care has changed them." Jake felt proud but also worried. The pups were getting bigger every day. Soon they would be too big for the medical bay, and their mother was still waiting outside. Through his mental connection with the wolves, Jake was learning more about their world. The mother wolf's name was something like Silver Song in the Wind, but Jake just called her Silver. She showed him images of her pack and their territory, but Jake also learned something troubling. Silver's pack had been scattered by the great storm that had frozen her pups. Some wolves were lost. Others were injured and hiding in different places across the ice plains. Silver was not just looking for help with her pups. She was looking for her lost family. One morning, Jake woke up to the sound of howling outside. But it was not just Silver's voice. There were other wolves howling. Too. Jake ran to the window and looked outside. Silver was standing on a hill near the station, calling into the distance. And from far away, Jake could hear answering calls. "They are coming," Lisa said, joining Jake at the window. "The pack is gathering." Over the next few hours, wolves began arriving at the station. They came from different directions, moving carefully across the snow. Some were limping. Others carried injured packmates on their backs. Jake counted 12 wolves total, including Silver. But several of them were hurt. One had a badly injured leg. Another was very thin and weak. A third had cuts on its face and was having trouble seeing. The wolves gathered in a circle near the station. They did not come close to the building, but they watched the windows. Through his connection with Silver, Jake felt their hope and desperation. "They want our help," Jake told Lisa. "Just like Silver did with her pups," Lisa nodded. "But we cannot treat 12 injured wolves in our small medical bay. We need more space, more supplies, more help." Jake made a decision. He sent a message to the main office of the mining company. He told them everything that had happened. He asked for medical supplies and more people to help. The company's reply came back quickly. They were sending a ship with medical equipment and a team of doctors. But the ship would take 2 weeks to arrive. 2 weeks, Jake said to Lisa. "Can we keep 12 injured wolves alive for 2 weeks?" "We have to try," Lisa replied. Jake and Lisa worked together to expand their medical operation. They cleared out the equipment storage room and set up more warming beds. They moved supplies from other parts of the station. They even opened some of the unused living quarters to make more space. The hardest part was getting the injured wolves to trust them. Unlike Silver and her pups, these wolves had never been around humans before. They were afraid, but Silver helped. She went to each injured wolf and shared her memories through their mental connection. She showed them how Jake had saved her pups. She showed them that humans could be trusted. Slowly, one by one, the injured wolves allowed Jake and Lisa to help. The wolf with the injured leg had stepped in a crack in the ice. The bone was broken, but Jake was able to set it and make a cast using materials from the station's repair shop. The thin, weak wolf was simply starving. Jake and Lisa fed him carefully, giving him small amounts of food until he was strong enough to eat normally. The wolf with cuts on its face had been attacked by an ice bear. Jake cleaned the wounds and gave the wolf medicine to prevent infection. Each day brought new challenges. Wolves needed different amounts of food. Some were allergic to human medicines. Others had injuries that Jake had never seen before. But Jake was learning. With each wolf he helped, he understood more about their biology and their needs. And the wolves were learning too. They began to trust not just Jake and Lisa, but all humans. The pups, Frost and Snow, became helpers. They moved between the injured wolves, bringing comfort and sharing information through their mental connection. They translated between the human doctors and the wolf patients. Jake was amazed by how smart the pups had become. They could understand complex instructions. They could solve simple problems. They even learned to operate some of the medical equipment. It is like they are becoming a bridge between our species, Lisa observed. They understand both worlds now. 2 weeks later, a supply ship arrived. Captain Ben Rogers came down to the planet with Dr. Amy Foster and a team of medical specialists. They brought advanced medical equipment and enough supplies to build a proper medical facility. When Captain Rogers saw what Jake and Lisa had accomplished, he was speechless. 12 wolves were living peacefully around the human station. Some were helping with simple tasks. Others were playing with human equipment under careful supervision. "This is impossible," Captain Rogers said. "Wolves and humans cannot live together like this." "Tell that to them," Jake replied, pointing to Frost and Snow. The 2 pups were showing Dr. Foster how to use the medical scanner on one of the adult wolves. Dr. Foster was fascinated. "These animals are incredibly intelligent," she said. "They learn faster than most humans. And this mental connection you describe, it could change everything we know about communication between species." Over the next few days, the medical team worked with Jake and Lisa to build a proper treatment facility. They created separate areas for different types of injuries. They set up equipment that could handle both human and wolf patients. But most importantly, they began to study the connection between humans and wolves. Dr. Foster discovered that the mental communication worked both ways. Humans could learn to understand wolf thoughts, and wolves could learn to understand human language. Pups were the key to it all. They had learned both languages while they were healing. Now they could teach others. As Jake watched Dr. Foster working with Silver to learn wolf communication, he felt something he had not felt in 3 years. He felt like he was part of a family again. Not a human family, but something new. Something bigger. The rescue of 2 frozen pups had become the beginning of a new kind of relationship between species. And Jake was at the center of it all. 6 months later, Jake stood at the window of what was now called the Kepler 442b Interspecies Medical Center. The small mining station had grown into something amazing. New buildings stretched across the area where the wolves used to sleep in. The Snow. Jake watched Frost and Snow playing with a group of human children who had arrived with the new colonists. The 2 wolves were now almost fully grown, but they still acted like playful puppies around the children. They were careful with their strength and seemed to understand that human children were fragile. "Hard to believe how much has changed," said Dr. Amy Foster, joining Jake at the window. She had stayed on the planet to lead the research team studying Wolf and human cooperation. Jake nodded. "Sometimes I think about that first night when Silver brought her frozen pups to my door. I never imagined it would lead to all this." The medical center now had 30 human staff members and over 60 wolves living nearby. The wolves had built their dens close to the human buildings, creating the first mixed community in human history. The ice moss that Jake had found in the caves had become important for human medicine too. Dr. Foster's team discovered that it could help humans heal from frostbite and other cold injuries much faster than regular medicine. They had started growing it in special greenhouses around the facility, but the biggest discovery was the mental connection between species. Dr. Foster had learned to communicate with the wolves almost as well as Jake could. She had taught other humans how to open their minds to the wolf language. "Jake, we need you in the main hall," Dr. Foster said. "The new engineering team has arrived from Earth, and Captain Rogers wants you to brief them." Jake walked to the main hall, where 20 new engineers were waiting. They looked nervous and excited. Jake remembered feeling the same way when he first came to this frozen planet. "Welcome to Kepler 442b, Jake began. "I know this place looks different from what you expected. 3 years ago, this was just a mining station with one lonely engineer. Today, it is something no one thought was possible." Jake gestured to the windows, where the engineers could see wolves and humans working together in the construction areas outside. "You will be working alongside our wolf partners," Jake continued. "They are not pets or trained animals. They are intelligent beings with their own ideas and skills. Some of them know more about this planet than we do. Others have learned to use human tools better than most humans." One of the new engineers raised her hand. "How do we talk to them?" she asked. Jake smiled. "Frost and Snow will be your teachers. They speak both languages perfectly now. But first, let me tell you how this all started." Jake told them the story of Silver bringing her frozen pups to him. He explained about the mental connection and how it had grown into a whole new way of communicating. He talked about the dangerous journey to get the ice moss and how Silver had saved his life. "The most important thing to remember," Jake said, "is that this partnership is based on trust and respect. The wolves chose to work with us. We did not force them or train them. They made the decision to join our community because we showed them kindness when they needed help." After the meeting, Jake walked outside to check on the construction of the new habitat dome. This would be a large, warm space where both human and wolf families could live together comfortably. He found Silver supervising a group of young wolves who were helping human workers move building materials. She had become the leader of the wolf community, making decisions about which wolves would work with which humans. When Silver saw Jake, she came over to him. Even after all this time, Jake still felt amazed by their mental connection. Silver shared images of pride and satisfaction. The pack was healthy and growing. The partnership with humans was bringing good things for both species. Jake sent back feelings of gratitude and friendship. Silver had not just saved her pups by bringing them to him. She had created a new future for both their species. "Uncle Jake," called a small voice. Jake turned to see his nephew Bobby running toward him. Bobby was 6 years old and had arrived on the planet with his parents, who were part of the new colony. A boy was followed closely by Frost, who had appointed himself as Bobby's guardian and playmate. "Frost taught me a new word in wolf language," Bobby said excitedly. "Listen." Bobby made a series of sounds that were part howl, part whistle. Frost responded with similar sounds, and both of them seemed very pleased with themselves. "What did you say?" Jake asked. "I said friend, and Frost said family," Bobby explained. "Frost says I am part of his pack now." Jake felt his throat tighten with emotion. This was what the future looked like. Human children and wolf pups growing up together, learning each other's languages, becoming family. Dr. Lisa Patterson came up to the group. She had been promoted to head of xenobiology for the entire colony project. "Jake, I have news from Earth," she said. "The Council has approved funding for 10 more interspecies facilities on different planets. They want you to lead the program." Jake looked around at everything they had built together. "I cannot leave this place," he said. "This is my home now." "You would not have to leave permanently," Lisa explained. "You would travel to new planets to help set up similar programs. But you would always come back here. This would be your base." Jake thought about it. He could help other humans learn to work with alien species. He could teach them what he had learned about trust and communication. But he would also get to come home to Silver and her pack, to Frost and Snow, to this amazing community they had all built together. "I will do it," Jake decided, "but only if Silver agrees. This is her home, too." That evening, Jake explained the offer to Silver through their mental connection. She shared images of other worlds, other species that might need help. She understood that this knowledge was too important to keep in one place. Silver sent him feelings of approval and support. She would help him teach others. The pack would be here when he returned. As Jake looked up at the stars that night, he thought about the scared, lonely man he'd been when he first came to this planet. He had been running away from grief and loss. But sometimes, when you think you are running away from life, you are actually running towards something better. The desperate mama wolf had not just brought her frozen pups to a human engineer. She had brought the gift of connection, family, and hope. And that gift would now spread to other worlds, other species, creating a universe where no one had to face the cold alone.